So you like Slay the Spire, the most popular deck builder roguelite, and you're looking for other similar games to try. I'm going to talk about 5 other similar roguelites that are worth your time, and I'll compare them to Slay the Spire as well, so you know exactly what you're getting into. Let's get started. First up, I recommend checking out Roguebook. Out of all the games on this list, Roguebook had the most similar feel to Slay the Spire in terms of its actual combat. You have the enemy intentions shown just like Slay the Spire, and you have to balance blocking and attacking in similar ways to Slay the Spire, both within each turn and when balancing your deck. When I first started playing Roguebook, I felt that I could directly apply my knowledge from Slay the Spire to Roguebook, which made me a lot better at the game initially. Of course, Roguebook does a lot of things different than Slay the Spire as well. In combat, you have to micromanage your 2 heroes with their own decks and passives. The interplay of these 2 heroes adds a nice strategy element to the game. The 2 character mechanic and some others, such as the flexible card upgrade system, allow for some new types of strategy in the game compared to Slay the Spire. Though I do wish the Roguebook characters had a little more gameplay mechanical variety to them than they do. There are also relics that give you within-run upgrades, analogous to that system in Slay the Spire. Additionally, the overworld or out-of-combat world feels very different. There's a larger focus on exploration and optimizing discovery, as opposed to the more linear and straightforward world of Slay the Spire. I like this overworld in Roguebook a lot, and I found the strategizing and optimization there to be a nice addition to the game. The game also has a moderate amount of progression, including vertical progression or strengthening across runs, but it never felt grindy to me. I never felt like I had to farm levels. So feel free to check out Roguebook if you want a game that's more similar to Slay the Spire, with a different overworld and deck building mechanics. It also has a unique difficulty system that I really enjoyed, but if you're looking for games that are less similar to Slay the Spire or games with a lot more mechanical gameplay variety, it might be better to check out some other games on this list. As with every game on this list, you can find a longer, more comprehensive review of Roguebook linked in the description. Next, I recommend checking out Monster Train, which is my second favorite roguelike card game, just behind Slay the Spire. While Slay the Spire is a focus on attacking with your singular character and defending them from attacks, Monster Train has a larger unit management focus. While you do have a hero unit that you can play that's more powerful than your other units, you also play a lot of other more basic units. A large amount of strategy in the game comes from adding synergistic unit cards to your deck, upgrading them between fights, and placing and positioning them well so your units properly defend your train. You do also have spells and other cards you can play, and those types of cards feel more similar to Slay the Spire. The game also has a great amount of variety of playstyles, with 6 different factions you can play as well as each run having a secondary faction. So you can always combo units and cards across factions within each run. And really, this comboing and gameplay variety is Monster Train's biggest strength in my personal opinion. While Slay the Spire is great for more tightly balanced combat, Monster Train stands out for its ability to create those extreme combos that are insanely fun to execute on and can break the game, so to speak. The game also has a lot of flexibility with the card upgrade system, which allows for some fun build crafting, synergy making, those type of things. You can also collect relics within each run and give strong upgrades and gameplay variety, like previously discussed for Roguebook and Slay the Spire. Additionally, there are a lot of difficulty levels that you can climb Monster Train if you want to, and the DLC adds a second final boss as well that requires a different strategy compared to the base game. This difficulty system, combined with the variety of factions and playstyles, creates a lot of replayability of the game for me. So check out Monster Train if you want a card game with a larger focus on unit management and extreme combos. But if you prefer games without that unit management, or games that focus on tight balance as opposed to extreme combos, there are some other games on this list that might better fit that profile. Now let's talk about a game that has a more RPG heavy focus than Slay the Spire, but also keeps a somewhat similar card game combat feel. In Grifflands, you play through the game as one of 3 different characters, each of whom have their own unique decks and follow their own campaigns. This is a story heavy roguelite, which makes it a fun world to explore, but you also skip through all of that story if you're just not interested or if you've played through it already. Each character has distinct cards and mechanics, and each character also has 2 decks. One deck is the traditional combat deck, which is for fighting enemies, and the other is a negotiation deck that's used for talking to, persuading, or intimidating other characters. These 2 decks interact with the RPG elements of the campaign, and you can choose to focus on one or the other more, depending on how you want to play through the world, whether through fighting or negotiating with people. The traditional combat deck feels very similar to Slay the Spire's gameplay, but you can also have allies or pets with you in combat in Grifflands. I think the addition of the second negotiation deck and how you choose to use it is the biggest differentiator of Grifflands from Slay the Spire and other card game roguelites on this list. This negotiation deck and your combat deck, in a less direct way, both interact with the story and RPG elements of Grifflands, which makes Grifflands at times feel like an RPG first and roguelite and card game second. One other thing to note about Grifflands is that it does have some fun combos. Of course, it is a card game roguelite, but it's just not a game that focuses on extreme combos in the same way you would expect from Monster Train or the game that I'll talk about next. There are also some alternative game modes, such as daily runs, that eliminate some of that RPG elements if you don't want those, and there's also a lot of vertical progressions to the game that has been added throughout the course of development. both in terms of difficulty levels to climb and in terms of power-ups across runs. All in all, I don't think Grifflands has quite the same high-level replayability as some other games on this list, or Slay the Spire does, but it has a great floor of replayability. That's to say, when you're first trying to beat each campaign, try out different paths, that gameplay is really fun. But I didn't feel as compelled to keep playing it after I did those things as I did with the other games. Still, it's a great card game roguelite for those looking for a more turn-based RPG feel, or looking for one with a larger story focus and world to explore. Tainted Grail Conquest is a deck-building roguelite that takes place in a dark Arthurian fantasy world. You play as one of 9 classes, and fight through 4 different bosses to complete each run. There are really 3 groups of 3 classes each, since each trio of classes share some cards with each other. But each class also has unique passive, unique mechanics, unique ultimate ability you can charge up in different ways, and unique traits can be unlocked within each run as you level up. Some classes definitely feel stronger or easier than others, but they all allow for different playstyles, and I really felt like my choices with cards and traits had a big impact on my build, allow for some fun combos that could really feel almost overpowered at times. Additionally, while the combat of Tainted Grail feels similar to Slay the Spire at times, it can also feel very different at others. For example, while in Slay the Spire you have a numerical block system, where block stacks cancel attacks of that block value, Tainted Grail Conquest has 3 different main defensive systems that can be used in different contexts to allow for more strategy, gameplay variation, and synergies. Like Grifflands, Tainted Grail Conquest is also a card game roguelite that has some RPG and story elements. However, while Grifflands has all of its RPG and story elements within each run, Tainted Grail is a progression-heavy roguelite with strong vertical progression and upgrades across runs, as well as a story that unfolds across and within each run, depending on what events you do, and those kind of things. I've been pleasantly surprised by the storytelling in Tainted Grail, actually, and it's a highlight of the game that I didn't expect when I went into it. There are also 2 endless game modes, and a weekly challenge for those that love that score-chasing feel and leaderboards. And, without spoiling any specifics, I will say that Tainted Grail takes some inspiration from Slay the Spire with its final boss unlocking structure. So I'd recommend Tainted Grail for those looking for a deck builder roguelite with a larger focus on class variety with different gameplay mechanics. And I'd recommend it for those looking for a game with cross-run progression and a story-heavy focus. But that almost grindy nature of the game is very different than a lot of other games, like Slay the Spire, so it might not be for everyone. Additionally, like Grifflands, some of those RPG elements lose their charm on later playthroughs. I'll have a longer review of Tainted Grail Conquest coming out on this channel soon, sometime in the coming weeks. Finally, I'm going to recommend a game that stretches a little further away from what Slay the Spire is, but it's a game that I've been really enjoying recently. Quest is a card game roguelite, but it feels very different than other card game roguelites. Instead of building up a deck of cards, you're given a standard deck of playing cards for each run. You find and equip items that have various effects when you use these playing cards on them. For example, some items might deal damage based on the values of the cards that you play on them, while others might cause specific status or condition effects. There's a large variety in the equipment, in the items, in regards to what they do, as well as what cards you need to actually activate them, whether it's a card pair or a card straight for some of them. While the combat feels somewhat different than Slay the Spire, it is still a card game roguelite, and the overworld elements strongly resemble the branching but limited overworld of Slay the Spire. For me personally, this game scratches a similar itch in regards to building up a deck, planning how to correctly use the cards you've been dealt, and navigating the overworld while collecting upgrades and improving yourselves between fights. The game also has a lot of different classes you can play as with unique gameplay mechanics. For example, each class has a unique and active and passive ability, as well as different starting equipment or items that standardize those abilities in different ways. While not all classes are equally good or equally fun, the class variety is a big selling point of the game for me because of that meaningful gameplay variety that it brings. Run to run, the game can feel very different in how you strategize. The game has both a gameplay mode with progression and a more classic gameplay mode without that cross-run progression, as well as a daily challenge if you're into that kind of thing. The game is still in early access right now, so it's not yet finished. But they've been adding new classes, new gameplay mechanics, and more. I think it's already actually a good game right now, and it will hopefully only get better with time, with more updates, with its full release. Let me know in the comments what games you'd recommend to someone that enjoyed Slay the Spire, and let me know if you want to see me do similar videos with other popular roguelites. Please like this video to help me out in the algorithm, and thanks for watching.